we can get the recording kicked on here, and then we'll be off to the races today. All right, well, welcome once again to the next installment of the Maximum Performance webinar series. We started this series at Maximum Acceleration, the professionals coaching company, about a year and a half ago, really with the intention and purpose of bringing together a community of mortgage and real estate professionals who were dedicated to perfecting and refining their craft. And now that we've crossed our 80th episode in the series, we're excited to continue and evolve and grow this process as we move forward. Again, this is going to be an interactive program, so I want to remind you one last time, if you want to ask questions, we encourage you to participate actively in today's program, to get involved, put in your questions. If you want to go ahead and contribute to today's program and aid yourself in your learning process, feel free to participate with the program. If you want to ask questions, just simply hit the plus sign by the word questions. In fact, if you want to even detach it from the control panel on the right side, you hit this little button, the icon with the arrow pointing out of the corner. That will undock it from that control panel to the screen. You can even stretch it and enlarge it so you can see the full Q&A panel. Well, today's program is really focused on comparing offline versus online marketing. You know, we've got two guest speakers today who are really experts in their own unique right in this field. Both are very experienced, knowledgeable, and successful originators who have over the years produced and developed tried and true methods of building trust and authority. Of course, Greg Frost is no stranger to this audience by obvious means, but for those of you who've never had the opportunity to hear Greg speak, Greg is recognized and acknowledged as being the first billion-dollar originator, producing over 15,000 loans in 10 years through the late 90s and early 2000s, and as a result has really established a true art, has mastered the art of establishing trust and authority with clients and business development partners over the years. And of course, Mr. Mark Madsen is a little bit of a newer comer to the industry, having been in the industry since 2000, but has spent full-time in web years, as Mark says. It spent as much time marketing online as Greg has spent since web existed. And as a result, Mark has built a portfolio of over 30,000 niche websites promoting and marketing mortgage and real estate services on behalf of clients with the company. He is currently one of the senior executives with a company called Best Rate Referrals. So these guys are going to share with us their concepts and ideas. And what we did to come up with the program for today is we went out and surveyed our Maximum Acceleration coaching clients and asked them to submit their questions about marketing, how to generate purchase-driven business, what's going on. And so we're going to spend the next hour just kind of picking the brains of these true marketing masters and identifying ways that we can help you as attendees learn more about how to reach consumers who can benefit from what you offer. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. The first question that we want to start with, just to get the conversation started, is, and I'm going to start with Greg here, is the first question is, what are your top ways of establishing trust and authority with buyers, sellers, and past clients, as well as business development partners? What are some of the best ways you know of, Greg, to generate purchase business?
Well, establishing trust is a face-to-face, belly-to-belly proposition. I think it's very hard. Mark's done a great job of communicating with using technology, and we subscribe to many of the things that Mark does. And Mark's helped us and helped me in my business over the years. So I want you to understand we're not in conflict here, but I do feel very strongly that you must meet your client. You must spend time with your client, whether the client is the borrower or the realtor or the builder referral partner. You must get in front of them face to face. So we insist upon a face-to-face interview with our clients. We'll talk to them on the phone. We'll give them some preliminary information on the phone, but we hold that to a minimum. We certainly invite them to come into our website where we have preliminary information, and we give them product information, but we don't give price over our website. We don't talk about price. We want to talk about price, and we want to talk about final product decision making, person to person, face to face. So we find that we can, when somebody comes into our office, we use technology. For example, when they come into our office, they're escorted into a meeting room, and it's a very sterile environment. Loan officers don't live in those rooms, don't office in those rooms. The rooms are established just especially for the interview. On the wall is a big screen. The receptionist brings the person into the interview room, sits them down, tells them that their loan officer will be with them. I don't take applications myself any longer, but that their loan officer will be with them in just a moment, and hands them a copy of the loan officer's career book. And so the customer is encouraged to take a look. This will tell you a little bit about your loan officer. And then the receptionist pokes a button on the big screen, and I come on and I introduce myself, thank them for coming to Frost Mortgage. We've videotaped it in such a way that I'm looking right at them in the chairs that they'd be sitting in the room, and I explain to them that the person they're about to meet is one of the top loan officers in the marketplace, and they'll do a fine job for them. And again, thank them for the confidence that they've shown in joining us at this time, and that your loan officer will be in. Why don't you take a moment, leaf through the loan officer's career book, learn a little bit about them and their family, and they'll be in just a minute to help you. So that takes place, and then the loan officer comes in. The receptionist gives a high sign to the loan officer, and the loan officer comes in, sits down, and introduces themselves. At that time, the receptionist then buzzes me if I'm in the office, and she tells me that Luke is with a client in interview room 2. So I'll get up, put my coat on, walk in, knock on the door, and just stick my head in. Now there's in that room there are award certificates, and there are covers of magazine covers that have my face on them and stuff like that around the room. So if they've been looking around, and certainly they looked at the video, they saw me on the video. So now I stick my head in the room and I introduce myself. I said, I just wanted to poke my head in for a minute. I'm Greg Frost, and they're always seem to be pretty excited. And I said, I just wanted to stick my head in for a minute and thank you for your business. You're with one of the top loan officers in the market. She'll do a real good job for you, or he'll do a real good job for you. And thank you again, and I'll let you guys get started. And then I close the door and leave them to their business. So with our client experience, that's what happens when somebody comes into our Frost Mortgage office, which we virtually mandate that they do because we want them to get this entire experience. I didn't mention to you that when they come into the reception area, there's a large screen in front of the receptionist, and it's got a welcome message for all the people that are coming in to visit us that day. And it's on a half screen, and on the other half screen it's got Financial News Network. So we're attempting to give the aura of a financial institution in our lobby. Then we've employed technology to stimulate them while they're sitting there. We then take them into our interview room, and we have technology give them a personal greeting by myself. If I'm in the building, I then follow up with another greeting. So we have a very high touch, both using our little technology in our office and person-to-person career book, flip through the pages. So it's a combination of technology and old-fashionism, to where the client is rewarded and gets started on a very positive note for coming into the office. And so it's a pleasurable experience, and that's how we handle the borrowers. Realtor clients, I just got back just a few minutes ago from prospecting. Actually, I was prospecting a potential loan officer, and I treat prospecting a loan officer and prospecting a realtor or prospecting a builder in the same way. I do breakfast and lunch every single day. I'm with a realtor, or I'm with a builder, or I'm with a prospective loan officer at breakfast or lunch every single day. I'm spending half of my breakfasts and lunches prospecting, half of them protecting. So I'll be at noon today, I'll be with a group of realtors who already do business with us, and we'll be having a hot dog lunch over at their office, which we're catering. And so I'll be protecting over at that real estate office, as well as prospecting a few agents over there that don't do business with us. But I believe, again, in belly-to-belly meetings, However, when I am prospecting, I never go to a meeting without some form of information to be given to the person that I'm with. I've always got a takeaway. I've got it in print, and now I've got it on my iPad. So I'm over there. I've got something out of National Mortgage News, something out of the real estate magazine. I've got something, and each week I have new topics that I share with either realtors or with builders or with loan officers. And I've got 3 topics, one for each, about what's happening in the mortgage business or what's happening in their particular industry. I have a takeaway for them. I print them out on glossy paper. I mark them up with yellow marker and let them know what I wanted to share with them today and why I think they should be reading this and take it away, and I give them a takeaway. Build trust, build authority by being a source of information to the realtors, builders, and loan officers that you're recruiting, and give them takeaway material so that they have something to remember you by. So that would be my answer to that specific question.
Awesome. And Greg, there's 2 things that I want to reinforce for the audience here that I heard you say. One is you use evidence of success tools, things that produce authority. Like, for example, I've been to your office, and by the way, guys, if you're ever near Albuquerque, make sure you stop in and see Greg's office because it's an amazing place. It's a very warm, fun environment. It's a very comfortable, easy to access. But one of the things you notice when you walk into his building is everywhere. Every square inch of the wall basically is covered up with stuff that is designed to reinforce authority, commitment to service, and especially some of the things that I like and I appreciate, Greg, in your office is the things that are community involvement, the plaques and certificates from charity events that you've participated in and that kind of stuff, along with just the awards and accolades and those kind of things. And the use of technology and the video is also another thing. All of these are designed specifically, folks, to create a winning first impression, something that is a wow experience for the consumer, and also reinforces with the use of suggestive positioning and external credibility and authority, all the people who say what a great guy Greg is, and then Greg transfers that authority to his loan officer with the video and how that's all orchestrated. So I'm going to change gears here just a little bit. Mark, I'm going to have you kind of talk about, okay, so trust and authority is obviously an important element of creating credibility and engaging customers. So what are the best ways that you know to do it, and what are the strategies you recommend for doing that in an online marketing environment where we don't have the opportunity to get belly-to-belly with the customers?
Eric, we should have actually just titled this entire presentation or interview as Building Trust and Authority. I took a bunch of notes as we just listened to Greg speak, and it's funny because my bullets for the way that I use the web to build trust and authority follow identically to what he just mentioned. And that's really why I wanted to get in this. And let me preface this. I specialize in generating purchase and refinance leads. So basically that intro, whereas Greg just talked about winning that client over on that initial application. So a lot of the things that we discussed today back and forth, keep in mind that I'm primarily talking about finding somebody online at the precise moment they're looking for answers and then capturing their info and working them into what I would call a qualified lead. So they're not even a client yet and barely a prospect, but they've reached out and said, hey, I'm interested in hearing more about what you might have to offer. So with regards to internet marketing focused on lead gen and reaching those targeted buyers, sellers even, or people that are current homeowners, I'd say that everything is built on trust and authority, all the way up to gaining placement in the search engines. Google likes to see sites at the top of their organic results, their natural results, that they trust, that are authoritative in the answers that they provide, because Google and the other search engines have a mission to an obligation to their users to provide the most relevant search results. So they are looking for websites that are trustworthy, that seem to be the authority on that particular topic. So everything boils down to trust and authority. So with regards to capturing somebody's information and attention on the web, first impressions, just like Greg mentioned, when they walk in, They get that friendly feeling. So that first impression is very, very important. I remember hearing Greg talk last year about dressing the part, looking professional. Same thing applies on the web. Now I have a whole slew of websites out there that need a lot of attention. I've got blog networks. I've got a perpetual list of to-dos on my websites. But I've identified a certain percentage of those websites that I would consider my client-facing, first best step foot forward sites. And I make sure that they're super clean, they're highly targeted, and simple. I think Greg once said, or maybe it was David Bartel's Greg, a confused mind says no. So if you have too much clutter going on, too many different messages hitting somebody at one time, they tend to shy away. Now keep in mind, when somebody is going on the web looking for mortgage information, they're looking for any reason possible to disqualify you, not hire you. So we've got maybe a couple of microseconds to capture their attention, earn their trust, and represent ourselves as the authority on that particular topic. A couple things, for example, consistency in message. If they find you on the search engines, whether it's organic, you earned that placement, or your website was paid for through a pay-per-click ad, whatever that link was, whatever that message is, landing on the page that you're sending them to should have a very consistent message. It's a very small step in building trust. It's little baby steps here. Another thing would be response time. How fast are you getting back to them? And setting them up with a quick email or a quick phone call, just so you can set their expectations higher than what they would gather from your competitors. Referrals, testimonials, no different than the plaques on Greg's office or that video that's playing. Referrals on the web can come from somebody that has another authority, trustworthy site mentioning you in a blog article. Maybe a journalist talks about you, mentions you in a quote. Your awards, you can highlight those on your website. So these are little things that you can do to build trust. And the authority topic, so when we're going to talk about generating leads online, niche specific. Be the authority on FHA loans. And talk about FHA loans the way that I do it on single sites. So I have an FHA site, period. And I go as far as to put an FHA site in every single city, so they know that they're talking with a local trusted authority. And a lot of people do search local. And even Google just serves up local results even if they're not searching local. But they typically type in city plus state. And I'd really just like to go back to keeping it simple. Keep your web presence simple, consistent, and you will definitely win at earning trust and authority, both with your visitors and with the search engines.
Awesome, awesome. You know, guys, the things I hear Mark talking about and the things that I think are important, you know, here to remember and capture is, you know, first of all, it's the same kind of concept, first impression. The difference is in an online marketing world, first impression is that client-facing first page. And so focusing on things that you can give value, that you can be a resource or asset, just like Greg was talking about when he goes and networks at the realtor events and he's looking for meeting new realtors, he's looking to reinforce relationships or protect relationships with existing realtors, as well as also looking for builders and loan officers, particularly loan officers he may be able to recruit to come to work for his company. He brings tools that are of value to those individuals, the business boosters type of stuff that he can provide that is of credible resource and value to those individuals he looks to provide answers or information to. And Mark is talking about the same exact thing when it comes to the online community and the people that would see that website, particularly when it comes to being niche specific, providing articles on the website that are of great value to people who would be looking for information about that FHA loan or that VA loan or how to get started with the home buying process or those kind of things. So trust and authority goes a little bit deeper than just being recognized or showing testimonials or accolades. It also goes to focusing on giving value first. I know, Mark, Greg, you're one of the huge advocates and probably one of the best experts in the industry on the laws of ethical influence and the psychology of sales. type concepts, and one of those key elements being the law of authority and the law of reciprocity, which is be the first to give massive value first, and people will have a natural desire to reciprocate. So that kind of leads us almost directly into the second question here. And Greg, I'm going to start with you again on this one. What are some of your best strategies in a face-to-face or an offline marketing to engage potential clients or potential home buyers, for example?
Well, at the time of engagement, you have to understand that the home buyer, the customer, has, first of all, they've made a minor commitment to you by virtue of my insistence that they come to my office and meet with me. So I'm always very comfortable with the fact that they're here for a purpose, and they're not here to waste my time. So by virtue of how I've set things up, that I only meet with people that have gotten their car and driven over here and pulled into my parking lot and come into my lobby, and I know that they've experienced what they've just experienced with my receptionist and with the videos. I sit down in front of them, and I have an immediate aura of authority. As Mark suggested, you know, it was a build from the moment they opened the door, looking at everything on the walls, being greeted the way they were, looking at the big screen in the lobby, going in, looking at the big screen, looking at the career book. And if they've looked through the career book, you know, they've seen some more things about me and about my family, that they've seen some more things establishing authority. They also see some things that personalize me as a family man, a husband, father, etc., sports enthusiast. So now it's time for me to find common ground with these people, okay? And so every time I walk into an interview room, the first thing I want to do is get to know the client a little bit. They've obviously learned a whole lot about me in a very short period of time by walking into my office and seeing and hearing what they've heard and seen. Now I want to know about them. And so I always engage a client by asking them about themselves. I ask them, I say, are we, first of all, I'd like to know, are we here to talk about buying a new home or refinancing? And I already know that when they're sitting there, but I let them tell me, okay? If they're going to buy a house, are we looking at buying a new built house or a resale home? Great. Any particular place in town? Okay, good. That's nice. Do we have children? Are we looking at school systems? Got children. What ages are they? Oh, good. Always a commentary back. Oh gosh, great time to have those great years. You must be having lots of fun with them. Yes, etc., etc. How long have you been in Albuquerque? Did you go to school here? Yeah. What high school did you go to? Oh, I'm looking for common ground. And before those 4, 5, or 6 questions are done, they're done answering those questions, I have found somebody I know that's over at that went to Manzano High School. So what year did you graduate? Somebody I know that graduated that year. Somebody I know that still teaches over there and might have taught them. If they went to the University of New Mexico, somebody that I might know over there. Depending on their age group, I would focus in on some type of commonality and ask them questions that will connect us. Okay, and within 4 or 5 questions, I can find a connector, and anybody can. You just get them to reveal some things about themselves, and it calms them down, because they come in and they're all nervous, and you got to understand they're nervous because this is the biggest thing they've ever done. This is the most money they've ever tried to borrow. In many cases, they've met with a realtor. In some cases, the realtor's already taken them out and shown them houses. So they feel an obligation to the realtor to consummate the transaction, and here they're sitting in front of the guy that could blow it up. They could tell them that they're going to have to go back to that realtor and say, we can't afford to buy this house. So you have to understand that their emotions run high, and you really need to spend a little time with them, calming them down a little and finding some commonality. And I always end up finding commonality, and we spend the first 10 minutes or so talking about them, talking about our commonality, things we share, things we relate to individually, or from a family perspective or from a professional perspective. You know, what business are they in, people that I might know in their business, etc. And so we really, I really engage them by calming them down, getting to know them a little bit, finding some commonality. And once we found some commonality, which invokes another principle of ethical influence, which is people like me like to do business with people like me. So I've got to find out if there's something about you that's like me. And if I can find something about you that's like me, we have bridged a big gap in getting along, okay? In getting along. And then I like to ask questions about their objective, okay? This is your first house, second house, third house, whatever that tells you something. How long are you thinking about staying in this house? Are you seeing this as a permanent situation for you, or as a stepping stone to another house, larger house in another neighborhood, etc.? Let them share their thoughts with you about this particular transaction and how they see it affecting them and their family. And offer them any insights that you have and any knowledge that you have and any experiences that you've had, and talk to them about this. The last thing we get into is talking about the numbers. That's the very last thing, and I'll usually preface talking about the numbers saying, well, what we're going to do, and I want to tell them what we're going to do today. What we're going to do today is we're going to do an income and expense analysis of you and your family. We're going to identify a maximum loan amount that you can qualify for and see if that maximum loan amount is appealing to you. And if not, we're going to choose a loan amount that is, and then I'm going to work the arithmetic and show you how much of a monthly payment that would be, or we can work back from monthly payment and find out how much we want to borrow either way. And so we're going to establish a maximum loan amount that you feel comfortable with, and we'll relate that to how much house you can buy with that maximum loan amount. So you'll walk out of here with a budget for your purchase and a budget for your monthly payment. How's that? And then we proceed. That's how I take it.
Awesome, awesome, Greg. Okay, so the next part of that is Mark. I'm going to kind of flip back to you, and how do you duplicate some of what Greg has talked about? One of the things that I obviously think is probably the most powerful in what Greg said is the whole idea of finding that common ground, getting to know them, showing you care, and that you have honest and sincere concern about what's important to them. How do you do that in an online world?
The way that I took this question was to basically, how do I find my target audience and how do I engage with them to create that common ground? But you would be surprised, I'm not looking to connect with consumers online in a personal manner. I do not want to be social with them. I do not want my consumers to be friends of mine on Facebook. They might follow something that I say on Twitter, but I really try not to use social networking tools to connect and engage with my, call them consumer target audience. Instead, the target audience that I'm looking to engage online would be the influencers, the people who can send me traffic to my websites via a link or a mention or something else that they can do somewhere out there on the social web. So one of my primary target audiences on the web would be journalists, national and local. These guys are looking for content just like I'm looking for content. They need valuable things to share with their readers or their subscribers. And if I know that something is popping in the mortgage industry and I can actually tailor an article specifically for them, even down to the city level, and mention it either A, on Twitter, and mention them on Twitter, or promote them, or maybe they wrote something and then I can add to it. These are the ways that I can kind of bump into my target audience on the web. And I'm looking for anything of value to provide the influencers specifically so that they can send me traffic to my websites, because the websites that I've designed convert well into leads, possibly anywhere from 12 to 15% of my traffic, provided it's targeted traffic. And that's all I really care about right now, traffic coming to my website so that I can convert into a lead. So the way that I engage those people, find something of value, answer questions, and listen. Do a lot of listening and paying attention to other people's needs.
Exactly. And keep in mind, you know, what we're talking about here is a little bit different perspective. Greg is getting involved, you know, for audience purposes, guys. Greg's getting involved when a buyer's already indicated they're ready to buy, which is obviously several steps down the road from when Mark is engaging them at first. You know, Mark's audience is first expressing some interest in maybe potentially buying a home by surfing a website that talks about how to buy a home, for example. But it's a very different layer. They're just dipping their toe in the water at that point as far as getting the process started. But like what Mark said, though, is you know, offer value, offer evidence of something that is supportive of what they're trying to accomplish, give good information, and work to identify influencers who give you visibility in ways that you're sharing information that's of value to potential consumers, and that's one way to build lead traffic organically. That will get you there. All right, third question. We're going to kind of pick up the pace here, guys, a little bit because we've got 4 or 5 more questions we want to rip through, and then we want to get to the audience's questions as well. By the way, reminder, guys, that this is intended to be an interactive program, so feel free to go ahead and post your questions as you think of them. We've had some great questions come in so far. You know, keep them rolling as these conversations and ideas are triggering thoughts of what your questions are about how to do it. The next question is how do you measure your marketing strategies? How do you measure success, whether you're making a difference or making a reach or not? And this one I'm going to actually start with Mark. Mark, what is your, you know, what do you do to kind of keep an eye on the metrics, the numbers side of what kind of results you're producing in an online world?
There are 2 different metrics that I measure. Leads to, or traffic to leads ratio. So that would be my cost per lead. How much does it cost me, whether it's time or money, to send targeted traffic to a site that converts into what I would call a qualified lead? Decent credit, loan amount, something that would hit your filtering systems for whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish and obtain on the web. So that would be my cost per lead. You've got to keep your cost per lead down in the mortgage space, depending on the quality, because sometimes it takes a few leads to convert it into a loan, which my second metric is cost per acquisition. So when I work with the owner of a mortgage company or the CFO, they say, how much will $20,000 get me? How many loans can I buy for $20,000? How many closed transactions? And they would like to see that cost per acquisition anywhere from $400 to $800. Unless, of course, you're talking about reverse mortgages, you could pay upwards of a point. But that's about how I like to measure my activities on the web. How much does it cost me to get traffic to a site that converts into a lead? And then the quality of those leads, how many of those leads convert into a closed loan? Obviously, if you're generating your own business on the web, the higher the quality, the less people you have to speak with, which goes all the way back to the very first slide. How well are you establishing trust and authority?
Awesome, awesome. All right, Greg, I mean, I know you're a numbers guy, and you obviously watch the performance metrics significantly. In fact, you were one of the first people who ever taught me the importance of making sure you knew what your numbers were and how effective it was being. What are some of the best ways, Greg, that you recommend measuring your marketing effectiveness, your lead generation results? What are the things you look for?
I'll tell you something. I would echo what Mark just said, and you know, we're doing some work now with lead generation, you know, electronic lead generation, and he's spot on. What's your cost of a lead, and then what's your cost of he calls it acquisition. I call it cost of fundings, and you establish a budget for your cost of fundings. On my end, I would look to Mark, and we do, and we say, Mark, okay, get me as many leads as you can, and Mark looks at the acquisition cost of leads. But then the bottom line is I'll come back to him and say, all right, we were only able to convert this many, and so our cost of fundings is this, and it's either excessive or it's acceptable or it's outstanding. And so he's spot on, and you've got to keep track of your numbers. So many people get into marketing, and they get into marketing activities because they just like what they're doing, and it looks good, it makes them feel good, and it's it's emotional as opposed to cost effective in many cases. So everything needs to be measured. What's measured can be improved upon. What's not measured cannot. Okay, so and Mark knows how to do that very well in his business, and he can help those people that are listening. He can help them. He'll help you keep your costs right where it need to be, and he'll help you do a good job of analyzing what your cost of fundings are, and they either work or they don't work. And in many cases, what we're doing is we're taking on the responsibility as a company. We're taking on the responsibility of lead generation, and we can afford it because we're paying a two-tiered commission. So leads that were referred by the company via our lead generation systems pay one commission rate. Leads that the loan originators are self-generated themselves get a much higher rate. So we're able to keep our total cost the same as long as we manage it, like Mark suggests, and increase the incremental business.
Yeah, and I'm going to ask you one other quick question, just as a follow-up to that, Greg. The element of I know that you've done a significant amount of your business, and a hallmark of one of the ways that you've established yourself as an authority in the community and one of the market leaders is by community engagement and involvement. I know Greg Jr. tells me all the time about the barbecue he was doing that week. That I know you guys do a lot of charity fundraisers and that kind of thing. I know you're heavily involved in the local police force and firefighters, unions, and stuff like that as well. How have you over the years measured the effectiveness of those activities as well? I mean, you track that stuff as well too, don't you?
Well, we do, and one of the things about that is to be smart about the way you do things. For example, we have a tow behind the truck smoker and grill, and it's a big monstrosity, but we have really focused on what we're going to do with that thing and how we're going to engage that thing in community events, and so we call it the weenie machine. Frost Mortgage is noted for cooking hot dogs. Okay, we use the weenie machine, and we're smart about it. For example, the local Realtors Association, the Greater Albuquerque Association of Realtors, they're having their annual golf tournament, and it's crazy, but for some reason they think that the mortgage people and the title people should pay for foursomes so the realtors can go play at their own tournament. I don't understand that logic, but we fell into that trap for years and years. We have 4 or 5 teams. We're spending $2,500, and we're taking 16 realtors out to play golf with us, on 4 or 5 foursomes. And I said, this is ridiculous. These people, we're doing business with these people, and it's their tournament. They should be taking us to their tournament. We'll invite them to the lenders tournament, But anyway, I'm a lone guy crying out in the field on that one. So I said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to sponsor a hole for $200. We're going to take the weenie machine out, and we're going to go buy a big box of Nathan's Famous hot dogs at Sam's Club, and we're going to buy a bunch of buns, and we're going to have ketchup, mustard, and pickle relish and chopped onions. I insist on the chopped onions. Greg Jr. doesn't like to mess with them, but it's not a hot dog without chopped onions. So we're going to spend $200 on sponsoring the whole. We're going to have our weenie machine out there and our table set up, and we're going to serve 140, 150 hot dogs to people that come by, and we're going to get to engage each one of them. We're going to get to talk to each one of them, and our total expense is in that whole deal is $400. We can afford to do several of those during the spring and summer. We do several a month, and we're talking, and a lot of times we're just taking it over to the police department and serving 150 hot dogs. For our total cost on that's like $150. So I don't have to get a lot of return. My break-even point on that, and I always say, how many extra loans do I need to do to be able to afford this? Well, $150 to drag the weenie machine, or with the realtor group, for example, $450 to go out there and feed everybody at the golf tournament and get a chance to shake their hand and talk to them, everybody that comes by. I need to do 1 loan a year, one extra loan a year maybe. The break-even is so low on those things. So what I suggest that you do is you find to get involved in marketing efforts as a company, find something unique that you can do, and you can become become the go-to person for that particular unique activity in your community, and that's not very costly, and be smart about how you employ it to where your break-even point, your return on investment is so small that you can easily say yes many, many times a year and allow momentum to build about your philanthropic activities out in the community. But you choose what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. We had a situation, for example, we were doing one, it was a golf tournament. We do quite a few golf tournaments. We insist on taking the weenie machine out to the hole and setting up so that we can see the people as the foursomes or eightsomes come by, and we can engage them. And one of the organizations said, well, we'd like to put you over by the clubhouse and just have everybody come by at lunchtime. No, we won't do that. We won't do that. We'll sponsor the hole. We'll go out and we'll put the weenie machine out in the hole. I'm not catering your golf tournament. I'm sponsoring a hole, and I'm providing hot dogs at that hole. That's how we'll handle it. So you got to be specific with what you're going to do and how you're going to do it, and be cost effective with how you're going to, what services you're going to provide, and you maintain your costs that way and keep your costs low enough to where it's not a big financial decision when anybody asks you to do it. It's a couple $100 and it's easily affordable, and we get a whole lot of play for it.
Absolutely. Well, and a much smarter way
of...
of...
on that, Eric.
Yeah, go ahead.
One thing that people forget to measure is their time invested. So as Greg mentions, you sit at a hole on a golf course, you get a chance to meet a lot of real estate agents, as opposed to possibly just meeting with the new agent for coffee and then responding to their 10 or 15 bogus leads that they send to you, and then responding to their 10 or 15 times 10 phone calls asking you if those leads are qualified. So the time invested is very valuable to pay attention to. And for example, you could purchase through any of these real estate portals, I think even realestate.com, aged buyer leads. So people that filled out a form 30, 60, 90, even 6 months ago, 30 days, 60 days ago. All right, so these buyers are on the web. They fill out a form on one of these real estate portals, a Zillow or a Trulia, and they say, we're looking to purchase a property in 6 months. Well, that becomes a dead lead to most buyers, to most real estate agents and loan officers. Nobody wants to touch that lead, so it becomes essentially worthless. However, that was 6 months ago, and now they're ready to buy. You can purchase those leads through some of those other portals for dollars, a couple dollars. And all you've got to do is spend your time calling those people back who you know are interested, and you can really do well. High conversions, low cost per acquisition. It works out well.
And I want to reemphasize that point. And Mark's very smart about these things. And all we really want as lenders, as loan originators, is to know who held up their hand and said at one time or another, I'd like to buy a house and I'd like to borrow money. If we can find as many of those people as we possibly can and reach out to them through any methodology that we can find to engage them, we're 5 steps ahead of everybody else. And I've always said you gotta find people who are willing to acknowledge that they want to buy a house and they want to borrow money, or they want to refinance. They want to borrow money. And just work with as many people as you can that want to borrow money. And his point is extremely well taken on working aged leads. I've got a situation here, for example, and stupid me, Mark, I should have talked to you about this. A lot of people are using lending, they're buying lending tree leads. Well, I have a 580 FICO score FHA loan program, goes down to 580. I can buy lending tree leads that are below 620, cheap as could be. And I have a unique loan program, right? And I should be going out to those people and letting them know
about... Most lead
generators
throw those away.
Yeah, exactly.
Just throw them away.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the other beautiful thing about what Mark was saying about the age leads, guys, is, I mean, you think about, the way people search for property today is very different than it was 10 years ago. And Greg, you and I have talked about this even recently, about the fact that, realtors really only feel like they have the ability to refer about 1 out of 10 buyers they're working with, because buyers are shopping differently today than they did 15 years ago, in that they go online first when they're curious or thinking about maybe buying a home, and they do their research online. Every website they go to see property, they're getting, get qualified, get qualified, get qualified, get your loan, get qualified, get started with your loan, get qualified. Those are all the banner ads that are on every real estate site out there. So buyers are going to a lender first in an online market. So when they get to the realtor doesn't really feel like they have the ability to refer that buyer unless the buyer or the agent understands the value that we seek to provide. The cool thing about these aged leads is they weren't really ready to talk to anybody about buying a home when they were in that initial investigative curiosity phase. 6 months later, after they've been thinking about it and talking about it for 6 months, they're ready to buy. And that's when you want to be connecting with them, is when they've moved beyond the curiosity phase and are in the active buying phase. And
Mark's methodology in communicating, reaching out to them with technology, and you can touch a lot of bases of ethical influence by putting these people into a database, starting a drip campaign with them, and start answering questions that they might have about the mortgage process, about the qualification criteria, etc., and proactively communicate with this group of people in a nurturing way. It's exactly what we all know we should be doing, but we physically don't have enough time to do, and Mark's methodology can accomplish for us.
Absolutely.
I'll drop a quick nugget for you guys.
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
How about this, Eric? So aged leads come with a name and an email in most instances. There's a service called Wrap Leaf, and I think that they just morphed into something else, but it's a social profiling service. Now, the CFPB, actually the FFIEC, specifically states in their social media guidance that just came out in December, you are not allowed to make a mortgage application if you have any type of social monitoring tools that can tell you about the person's either protected classes, race, nationality, all of that type of stuff. However, if you can purchase a list of people who filled out a form 30 days or beyond, I mean, keep in mind, most loan originators only call a lead one time, period. That's it. That's it. They just call them one time, they get the voicemail, they're not doing anything else. But you could get these leads, upload them into the database. It'll pull all of their social profiles for you, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. And then you can upload those emails straight into Facebook into a very, very targeted Facebook published promoted post ad. So from there, you can send them straight over to your landing page with a very targeted ad. You can market straight to them on Facebook, and if you happen to have a Facebook presence for your mortgage company, it doesn't hurt. You can do all of that for dollars per lead. Really cost-effective way of reaching out, like Greg was saying, finding everybody out there who showed any interest, and then scrubbing them through your funnel. Instead of manually calling them, let them work through your sales funnel and end up on the final filtering, which probably moves us into the next question for lead management tools. Is that right, Eric?
Yeah, in fact, in the interest of time, I'm going to consider that one somewhat answered. There's one more question I want to make sure we get to. We might circle back to some of the others. And Craig, I know you're on a real tight schedule today, but hopefully you can hang in with us. We're going to probably go long, guys, just for the audience members. I understand if you have to jump off. If you do, by the way, we are going to be, we are recording this program today, and we will be following up on making sure. It takes a couple of days for our team to do the editing and rendering and post-production work necessary to be able to allow the video to stream effectively. But we'll be getting an email to anybody who registered for today's program by the end of the week with the links and some follow-ups and some special items for you as well, for those of you who do have to jump off early. But the question I want to get to, because I think it's one of the most burning questions that originators have. It was the question that was most frequently asked even by our active coaching members, even though this is a strategy or tactic or solution, this is, I would say, probably 1 out of 4 of my coaching sessions every week has some kind of conversation about this issue. But guys, what is your top strategy for generating your own buyer leads? I mean, Greg, when you sit down with your loan officers and you're trying to encourage and inspire them to self-generate more business and to wean themselves off of the company-provided leads, what are the top strategies you're teaching your guys?
Top
and gal
strategy
fishes
is
today?
top strategy is to go to the realtors that are referring them buyer leads, sit down with them and ask them to refer that, give them a warm introduction to all of their listing clients, and approach those listing clients and get them pre-approved for their new mortgages. You will find that 50% of the listing clients of a realtor end up buying their houses from another realtor. And the reason why they do this is because the listing agent loses control, loses their affection, somehow becomes at odds with them. We offer a service to where we will go in and we will keep them busy getting approved for their new mortgage so that they're not totally focused on the activities of the listing agent and focused on the net out. We will show them through our process of how little cash they really need to buy that house and what the monthly payments will be, how low they'll be at current interest rates. And we get them excited about the new purchase so that the sale of their home, rather than being their total focus, now becomes the means to an end of the promise of the new house and how much they can buy and how much they can borrow on the new house. And so we sell that to the listing agents, and we say we'll keep them busy and we'll help them cross that emotional threshold from seller to new home buyer and get them to refocus on the new house that they're going to go out and buy as opposed to the one they're selling. And we'll also identify if of how little cash they'll need. You know, they're looking at their net out really hard, penciling the net out, and they may feel they need $25,000 to buy a new house, and we can show them they only need 15. Well, we've taken a tremendous amount of pressure off the listing agent. In addition, we offer to show the listing agents whether or not they're fixing to make somebody homeless by selling their house out from under them, because there are people out there that are selling their houses right now that simply won't qualify for a new home for one reason or another. We'll identify that situation as soon as it comes up. This can save the listing agent lots of marketing dollars, lots of time, because the bottom line is when somebody sells their house, they haven't gone out and been approved for their new mortgage yet. They start that process after the sale. If they can't qualify to buy another house, they are not going to sell that house. You can threaten them with specific performance and all kinds of other threats. They're simply not going to sell the house. They will stop the transaction, which wastes a lot of time for everybody. So statistically speaking, those real estate agents that are high volume buyers agents usually sell just as many listings, if not more. So you're only looking at half of the business potential with a particular agent if you're just asking them for their buyer referrals. Get out there and ask them for a warm introduction to their listing clients, and you can immediately and dramatically tick up your production.
Awesome. Mark, go ahead and fire away, if you would, your best strategy for generating new buyer leads, if you would, please.
I promise, guys, this was not rehearsed. We have no clue who was going to say what. My best strategy for generating my own buyer leads is by marketing to sellers. The National Association of Realtors did a study last year, or whatever they did a study. 94% of first-time home buyers need a mortgage, but 86% of second move-up buyers need a mortgage. And just as Greg said, that listing agent typically is working really hard at holding that deal together. And that seller is on that real estate agent's website, if they have a decent website, looking at other property values, trying to see what are you doing to help me sell my property and maximize the value or my return on my property. So what we do, what I love to do, and I started this whole internet lead thing by building real estate websites. We launched a real estate company in Las Vegas, and really all based on the web. So we put how to sell and how to move up and all types of mortgage information and articles, targeted articles on your real estate agent's website, simply talking about what happens when you sell. Can I qualify? How does it pencil out? What's the process? What do I do? What do I don't do? All the frequently asked questions and the fears. So those sellers are on their real estate agent's website, and you would probably want to find a real estate agent who has a very high traffic website because the buyers are on a real estate agent's website as well. Put your targeted articles, for whomever you're talking to, whether it be the seller or the buyer, on a high-traffic real estate site. And those real estate agents, whether they know you or not, whether their husband or wife is their loan officer, I guarantee they will let you post content on their website. They need content to stay relevant in the search engines. They need content to generate leads for them. And they just don't have the capacity or the education, really, the insight to write mortgage content. And mortgage content is not very sexy. It's difficult to write mortgage-related content. So anytime you can offer an agent 10 to 15 articles over the course of 3 or 4 months on their website targeted towards buyers or sellers, they're going to jump at the opportunity because it'll generate a different type of lead on the web than they can get on their own. The type of people that look on real estate sites and then find your mortgage information are further along in the sales cycle. They're either selling their house looking for a new mortgage, or they're already asking mortgage-related questions. And if you could put that content on your real estate agent's website, well, now those agents don't have to email you and require you to send an hour response every single time. They can just forward it internally, and you'll get the business out of it.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, there was one more question, Mark, that we had put in the deck of questions, and I think I want to move towards consumer questions or to attendee questions at this point if we can. But there's one last thing, which was kind of the general question about compliance, how it's impacted your situation. And by the way, that question has been mirrored several times through the Q&A line as well. So I'm going to have you guys very, very quickly address what, if any, impact recent regulations, changes, the CFPB opinion of RESPA, and those kind of things. The other thing, Mark, I was going to ask you to do while Greg is answering is you mentioned the CFPB guide on online marketing, social media marketing, et cetera, et cetera. Is it possible that you could post a link or at least give us some guidance in the Q&A on where to get that resource? And Greg, why don't you start with the question about compliance and what that how that's impacted your marketing in an offline world.
It's a pain in the butt. We all know that. This compliance issue is you talk about overkill on a huge degree. This CFPB and these regulations, looking out for the consumer, etc. You know, I've never seen very many cases at all. It's always been the exception rather than the rule of lenders attempting to deceive people and with their marketing, and you know, the consumers aren't as ignorant as the CFPB and all these government watchdog agencies would think. And I for one am just perplexed by the overkill, and everybody wanting to take a poke at our industry and suggesting that the CFPB in its very name disgusts me. The CFPB stands for Consumer Finance Protection Bureau. Okay, Consumer Finance Protection Bureau. Who in the hell do you think the government's trying to protect the consumers from? And it's you and me, and that disgusts me. Okay, the bottom line is they'll come, and one of the things everybody needs to know about the CFPB, and I'll get off my soapbox. There are line item revenue on the CFPB's projected budgets for the operation of that entire agency, and there are line item revenue lines that says penalties, fines, etc. This agency, part of the agency's funding dollars are anticipated to come from penalties and fines. Now, you know, if it's a line item on their budget, you know there's somebody back there that's got a number in mind, and I imagine that number's huge, and they're going to be coming down here, looking at us with a fine-tooth comb, and I think in some degree they're going to be budget-related offenses that can meet budget-related revenue goals, and it just upsets me to no end. The bottom line is you have to be consistent, you have to be compliant. I work for PRMI Mortgage. PRMI set up a compliant desk. I can't even write a note that's going to more than 5 realtors without running it by compliance. And so fortunately they've set up a good desk and they've got good response time. So when I want to do a flyer, I want to do something to a website, I want to do something, in my marketing materials, I can get it up to them. I have a couple things up there right now, and it take me a day or two, and they come back and they have me reword it or re-emphasize it or throw it away if it's something they don't think I can do. And so we're in this compliant world, so you all got to be careful. And those of you that don't work for big companies, you got to be very careful, because the net worth you risk is certainly your own. And these guys are going to get to everybody sooner or later. As a matter of fact, their goal is to audit every single mortgage company before year's end. At PRMI, we were audited back in 2013, but they make no bones about it. I just came from Washington D.C. a few weeks ago and was at the MBA conferences there on the Hill, and they make no bones about it. They're going to check everybody out, and they're hiring people hand over fist. They're serious about what they're doing, and devil take the hindmost. So be careful. You've got compliance attorneys. If you're a smaller organization, you've got your own compliance attorneys. Run everything by them so that they can at least see that you tried. The spirit of how you do things will be implicit in what kind of a finding they have, and how they fine or don't fine, or decide to fine or don't fine. A lot of it will have to do with how they perceive your spirit was in complying with the regulations. So be careful. It's fortunately, I've got a big company looking out for me there. If I didn't, I really can't imagine how I would deal with it.
Absolutely. It's certainly a different, we got to think before we act type of environment. And then the old adage of beg for forgiveness instead of ask for permission is probably the safe strategy to go with these days. You've got to have an eye towards what the rules are. And I think part of it also is understanding what the rules are and what the spirit and intent of the rules was to begin with. Which is the job of every professional originator and mortgage professional to make sure that they know what we're up against and what we're supposed to deal with. All right, Mark, why don't you take a quick crack at that one, and then I want to move into consumer questions or to audience questions here real quick.
Did you really just call them consumers?
Sorry. I guess I did, didn't I? Mortgage professionals, our audience here, the folks that we're hoping to help here.
Okay. Here's what I have to say about compliance and internet marketing. If you go back to the first slide, building trust and authority, have a clean website, have a crystal clear message, do not deceive, have your message stay consistent from top to bottom through every avenue, look at every single social profile that you have. What does it say about you on first impressions? This is actually a good thing for you if you care about being on the web, because it'll force you to go back through and do what you should have done in the first place and make sure you have a very clean, squeaky clean online presence. If that means ditching some social networks because you cannot monitor them effectively, then ditch them. Or maybe you said some stuff you weren't supposed to publicly, cancel it. I can tell you for a fact that social networking, Facebook, Twitter, Google+, any of those things out there, is not going to drive you a ton of business compared to the risk you are assuming with regards to compliance. Okay? Here's another reason why the CFPB is actually on the side of internet marketers. It's forcing everybody to get offline. Every loan originator, mortgage companies are shutting everybody down or coming up with these really crazy rules because they don't really know what the rules are yet. So if you do pay attention to the rules and you find that it might be worth the risk, a simple niche website with 15 pages of content in your city is very easy to have the content approved. Just don't break any fair housing or lending laws. Don't promise something that you can't deliver. Put up 15 pages of content on an FHA or VA specific site in your city, and you'll be great. You'll do well because you're going to have very limited competition. The only competition you're going to have is going to come from the big boys, Zillow, Realtor.com, LendingTree, a lot of the big internet marketers. But when somebody's looking for a local, trusted authority on a topic, they're more than likely going to find you and like you if you're personally branded on that website. They're also going to force the spammers off. The loan officers who are kind of loan officers, who kind of generate leads, who've got a bunch of junk websites out there, who don't want to put the time and effort into actually creating unique, valuable, awesome content, they're not going to get any business. They're going to be forced off of Google anyway. So this opens up a tremendous opportunity for the mortgage companies who are compliant, who understand the web, and want to pay attention to it, at least have a small specialized team pay attention to it. Now that FFIEC social media guidance report that I talked about a few minutes ago, and I posted the link in the question section. And we'll have a landing page up after the webinar with video and a full transcript. But what they said in there, every mortgage company is responsible for their online reputation and the risk of that reputation, whether they have a web presence or not. And they have to have somebody who has web experience authorized to manage the entire company's online presence. So for those loan officers out there who like the internet, who like blogging, you just have, now you have an actual job opportunity at your mortgage company to be their social media manager, because the CFPB is actually requiring everybody to have somebody in charge of their online presence. So the CFPB has created employment in the compliance and regulatory divisions, and what they did is they just drove the cost of marketing up for everybody. And you know, eventually the consumer will get hurt because that cost per lead just went up. It costs me $50 to $70 in some cases to generate a lead online organically, just me to generate it. And that cost per acquisition may have gone from $350 to $450 up to $850 alone. So something's got to give. The consumer will lose. But if you do pay attention to the web and you're smart about it, it's a tremendous opportunity because there's no competition out there right now.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, guys. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and transition over to the Q&A section of today's program, and I'm going to spend just a few minutes to tell you guys about some upcoming things that I'm really excited to be able to promote to you. Greg and Mark are going to be joining us, by the way, as you guys are posting your questions, and I know we're a bit over on time. Greg, what is your time limit with us? When do you guys have to both jump off, if you don't mind telling me while while folks are posting their.
My next appointment is with the weenie machine at a realtor open house, so I'm okay. I got some flexibility.
Okay, great. All right, well, I'm going to go through and introduce the folks to just a couple of key things that they could take advantage of real quick, and then we'll come back to Q&A as we've got just a few more seconds here. If you do end up getting into an urgent where you got to get off, guys, you know, often and several of the questions that were asked are, you know, what is maximum acceleration? What do we really do? What do we provide? Well, the reality is you know, think about any top performer in any industry, the Wayne Gretzky's, Michael Brady's, Tom Brady's, and Michael Jordan's of the world. What did they all have in common? Well, they all had somebody they could trust and respect, who cared as much about their own success, and in some cases more so than they did, that was an accountability partner, a resource and a guide, somebody who could direct them down the right path. I know Greg is an advocate of this. I have benefited tremendously from mentorship from guys like Mark and Greg and my own personal coaches that I've worked with over the years. And without that, I can honestly say I would never be anywhere close to where I am were it not for that help, guidance, and support. So a couple of things that you could do that would add value and would make you a greater asset to a business development partner, would also make you a better performer, is to find somebody that you can know and trust, and that you have that has the information you need that's going to help you be able to perform at a higher level. You know, the role of a great accountability partner, there's like basically 4 key hallmarks of it. One is that they have credible knowledge. They have information you want, need, and can benefit from. Second is there's somebody who's not in the day-to-day of what you do, and they can give you that outside perspective. They're a person who can take a step back and look at what you're doing and show you how you could do it differently and better to get better results in less time. They're also there as an accountability resource, somebody who can keep you focused on and on track with steady progress. You know, more often than not, we go to, you know, with our coaching clients, we'll go from week to week, and they'll have a week where they really, in fact, in some cases, they'll not even show up for the session, or they'll email me that they need to cancel their session because they didn't get anything done. Well, the reality is it's more important that we talk in those weeks where the performance was off track than the weeks where the performance was on track, because the resource that gets them back on track, that helps them figure out what went wrong or how they got sideways, and brings them back into focus and gets them moving back in the direction again. But more importantly, we're the person that's there to help hold them accountable to the commitments and responsibilities that they've committed to for their own benefit, that helps them achieve their goals. Another way of looking at it is, in 1998, Brigham Young University did a research study on what it takes to get ideas into action, and they were basically identified, you can read the text on here, but basically they found out that there were 3 key things to creating lasting implementation and follow-through. 1 is set a specific goal. 2 is set a specific time frame for that goal. When does it need to be committed? 3rd is tell somebody about that goal and ask them to hold you accountable to that deadline. You do those 3 things, you've got a 95% chance of completing and achieving your goals. So as a result, what we provide at Maximum Acceleration is that resource and support through a unique system that walks you through the 3 phases of development, focused on the 6 critical areas of development. And of course, Greg was instrumental, and along with other thought leaders like Tim Brahim and myself and several of the top performers in the industry who brought this all together. And as a result, we produce it in a systematic format. There's actually 3 different levels of service that we offer. We have home study programs that are available to you if you're interested in finding out more about those. I'll tell you about them here in just a second. We also have group and on-site coaching programs for corporate groups or individuals who want to participate in a masterminding type program or event. And we also have the one-on-one personal coaching. And so if you're interested in finding out more about the different levels of service or programming, there's a couple of different ways you can do that. Probably the easiest and fastest way to get information about that is to join what we call our Maximum Acceleration Experience, which is a special webinar that we do once a month that focuses on introducing folks to how to grow their business and what are the strategies of growth. It is a learning opportunity and experience that we work on. But if you're interested in participating in that next upcoming program, the next event of that series is going to be on June 3rd. It'll be a Tuesday. Instead of just the straight informational programs like today's program, this program is going to focus a little bit more on learning development techniques, strategy for growth, and how to accelerate personal performance growth. In addition, we'll also walk some folks through some live coaching experiences and talk a little bit more on what it takes to get the access to the systems and what's involved. So that's an opportunity for you on June 3rd at 11 o'clock Central, about 2 weeks out. We'll be talking with folks about how to get more information and access to that information. The other thing that we are offering, if you are really serious about taking the business to the next level and you're pretty sure that you would benefit significantly from the guidance of a coach on a personal level, we offer what we call a strategy session, which is one of the fastest ways we've found to help people understand the true value of coaching is to actually experience it. So if you're interested in participating in one of those events, they are filled on a first-come, first-served basis. We only have a handful of sessions a week open based on our current staffing and client loads. But if you're interested, you're welcome to go ahead and indicate that you'd like to take advantage of one of those strategy sessions by posting in the Q&A that you'd like the strategy session. Of course, our team will need to coordinate with you scheduling, so let us know the best email address and phone number to connect with you to be able to work out scheduling on that strategy session. Otherwise, there are a couple of other things that we'll get into really quickly, but I did want to jump back to one of the questions that popped in very, very quickly here I want to introduce folks to is the question was asked, Mark, can you comment again on the realtor websites and providing mortgage info? Where do you get your content for posting on their website?
Well, I typically write my content. It has to be really, really good content, especially if you're going to be on a high-traffic real estate site. When I say high-traffic, I'm talking about the probably top 12 to 14 organic placements. So when you type in your city real estate or your city homes for sale, the ones that show up organically, not the paid, not up at the top. And those guys probably, depending on the size of your city, could get anywhere from 4,000 to 20,000 unique visitors per month. So those are the places where you want to go. Those real estate agents are fighting tooth and nail to keep those placements. And the content you're going to provide them will be, go back to your email. Every single email question an agent has ever asked you that you spent an hour typing a really well thought out response to, maybe multiple times, that's where you start with the content. You probably should pass it through your compliance department, get the stamp of approval, and then submit it to them. Or come up with a 5-part series of FHA, VA, whatever might be unique if you're dealing with agents that work in the jumbo market, then you can find a program for that. Frequently asked questions for sellers, like I was talking about earlier. What does a seller do? What are they going to do now? How do they qualify? Renovation loans. Renovation loans are great. I think the National Association of Home Builders said that 60% of the homes that are currently on the market right now were built before 1990. So 60% of the listings were built before 1990. They need work. So if you do 203K or any type of renovation, home path and stuff, it's a fantastic place to start right there.
Awesome, awesome. And I'm sure, guys, that there's a lot more to come from Mark. You know, he's probably one of our most popular speakers in conjunction with Greg on this series, and so definitely we'll have Mark back in the near future talking a little bit more about, you know, how to produce content. In fact, there's some great stuff on our YouTube channel that Mark provided a while back that I think would be worth checking out. If you go to mxlcoach.com or search MXL Coach or Maximum Acceleration on the YouTube, our YouTube channel will pop up, and you can look at the entire recorded series of this program to get more information. There's also some great programs on there that Greg has provided in depth, particularly the Planning to Win series. It's just some of the fundamental nuts and bolts daily disciplines of creating an effective and quickly growing mortgage practice and business. And so, guys, I know we're way over on time. I wish we had hours more, because I know these guys could pack it with even more valuable information. So we're going to make sure that everything that you guys get questioned, we're going to make sure that we follow up and make sure that those answers are all taken care of for you. One last thing I was going to introduce you all to just as we wrap up, and then I'm going to ask you to take some commitment, make a commitment to taking some action here in just a minute. If you guys would like more from Greg and Mark especially, one of the best ways, by the way, to take advantage of that is Greg and Mark are both going to be featured speakers at the upcoming Ultimate Mortgage Expo in New Orleans. It's going to be in July, from the 7th through the 9th of July in New Orleans. It's going to be a fabulous venue right there on the French Quarter, the Hotel Montfleon. It's going to be a great, great two-day conference. And just so you know, by the way, as a guest of Maximum Acceleration, you can attend the conference for free. A $295 gift to you if you'd like to attend the program. Go to ultimatemortgage.com, ultimatemortgageexpo.com. Use the discount code MAXUME to register. But keep in mind, this offer is really only on the table for about another 20 days. It expires on June 6th. After that, it goes up to the regular price of $295, and everybody will be paying the full ticket price to exhibit and enter. In addition, by the way, if you're looking to get your CE out of the way, if you go through the exhibit hall, they do have a passport program that you can actually earn a free ticket to your CE. They are offering a full 8-hour federal NMLS CE class at that conference, which will be the Wednesday of that week. The 9th will be the day that they do the CE class. Otherwise, guys, we want to thank you for joining in today's program. I want to encourage you to take some action and remember that this series is dedicated to you and your growth and bringing the community of learning together. We're excited to be able to provide this opportunity for you. And just as an interest, next week coming up, we have contact management and relationship marketing expert and top originator and branch manager with Academy Mortgage, Derek Eckeberg, is going to be joining us for a program called Finding Buyers, Maximum Reach in Minimum Time, how to leverage technology and follow-up strategies to create a powerful network of future business opportunities. From there, the last thing that I want to encourage all of you to do today is you've taken the time and energy to invest in the learning process today. You've been given some incredibly powerful information about how to really juice up your marketing, both offline and online, and how to use tried and true principles of how to establish trust and authority, build credibility with your audience, et cetera, et cetera. But here's the problem, guys. Ideas without action are worthless to you. They have no value until you implement them. So the last thing that I want to challenge you to do is, before you answer that next phone call, before you respond to that next email, before you jump out of this screen, take 5 minutes to finish this learning process and implement some key strategies and ideas. First of all, decide what was the one most valuable thing you heard today. The first thing that you need to implement. You'll have the recording and all the tools and resources to come back to you later for idea 2 through 20, because I know you got a ton of great information from this program. But what is the one idea you want to make sure you implement right now? Secondly, decide what specific action you need to take to implement that idea. Third, set a specific action time frame. When will you have that action implemented? What's your deadline? Fourth, who is going to be your accountability partner in sticking to that deadline? Who are you going to ask to follow up with you and make sure that you're following through on that idea? Find that accountability partner. You do those three things, I guarantee you have a 95% chance of completing that action item idea. Decide what's the idea you want to implement, what's the action strategy to get it done, by when are you going to complete that action, and who is going to be your accountability partner. You know, it comes back to the old, the old analogy of the running buddy. You know, I go decide I want to lose some weight by jogging, and it's third or fourth day into it, and it's cold and wet and nasty outside, and I hit the snooze button, go back to sleep, and I don't go running ever again. If I got a running buddy who goes with me every morning, and it may be cold and wet and nasty, and I'm sore because I haven't overworked the first 3 or 4 days, but I'm going to get up and go because I know my buddy's depending on me, and he's going to be on my doorstep at 5:30 in the morning to go jogging. It's that promise we make to somebody else that keeps us on track, that makes us stick to the promises that we make, because it's so much harder to break the promises we make to somebody else when it's so easy to break the promises we make to ourselves. And if you're interested in finding out more about the potential of engaging a maximum acceleration coach to help you along that path and to be that accountability partner for you, that's our sole purpose and mission for existing. That's what we do. That's how we feed our families and make a living as individual coaches and business professionals, helping you guide you through that process. If you'd like to find out more information about it, again, remember the best way to do it is via the strategy session. So if you're interested in taking advantage of one of those, go ahead and post so in the Q&A right now. Give us the best phone number and email for our team to be able to reach out to you and coordinate scheduling, and we'll get you set up for one of those no-cost, no-obligation coaching strategy sessions. Otherwise, guys, I want to applaud you for investing your time and energy in the learning process and developing your skill and ability. I want to thank you for joining us today. I really do appreciate the time you've committed to today's process. So anything we can do to help or aid you in your growth process, please do not hesitate to let us know. Again, a huge, huge, huge thank you to Greg and Mark for the value you've shared with our audience today. I couldn't do it without you guys, and I really do love and appreciate everything that you shared with us today. And to that end, by the way, if you guys are still on and would like to kind of hit one final comment that you'd like to leave with our audience, you're welcome to do so at this time. Greg, if you've got some final thoughts you'd like to share, we'd love to hear it.
Well, I'd like to echo your thought on making promises to yourself versus making promises to an accountability partner, and that's the aspect of coaching that's always helped me along. You know, I'm a platform trainer. I'm not a coach, but I have a coach, and as Eric knows, when you have an accountability partner, you simply have to get the things done that you promise to get done by the deadline. And meeting that deadline, as the BYU study shows, meeting that deadline and creating a scenario for yourself by which you must meet the deadline is so productive. You know, Stephen Covey participated in that survey up at BYU and that survey work. And Steve, you know, the 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, accountability, you know, setting the goal, having an accountability partner, setting a deadline. It's critical, and that's what coaching does for you. And I think I've never been more, never benefited by anything more than having a third-party person that I had employed to keep me on track. And staying on track with an accountability partner is worth its weight in gold.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you again for your wealth of information. Thank you, by the way, Greg, personally, for the impact you've had on my career. I really, truly believe that I would not be anywhere close to where I achieved in my own personal origination and business development and coaching career if it hadn't been for a lot of the help and advice and guidance you gave to me early in my career back in the late 90s when you and I first met. Mark, by the way, if you'd like to share anything with the audience just before we close the program out here, again, thank you so much for your knowledge, your information, your giving spirit, and all that you've done to help make this great program. I think this, in my book, is in the top 5 of any of the programs we've done in the entire series. So I couldn't have done it without you, buddy, and thank you so much for your help and support. Anything you'd like to share with our audience just before we close out here?
Well, hey, man, you did a great job today. you actually worked. We put you to work. Greg and I had you talking a lot. You weren't able to just sit back and let us do our presentation. But I really enjoyed this format, and thank you, Greg, for participating. It's always fun to talk with you about marketing.
Yeah, well, you're a talented young man. I enjoy any time we have a chance to interact.
Well, it's fun. So, Eric, great job today. Appreciate the work. Here's my final thought for everybody. Internet marketing, it's a team sport. It's a true team sport. Whether you're looking for links, referrals, traffic, or just some insight, there's very few of us on the web full-time. I mean, it's a full-time job generating any type of business online, and we need that support. If you are playing around on any social network or you think you may want to, I'll recommend Google+. Google+ is a place to be. You'll get more value from participating on Google+ than any other social network. And we established a mortgage network or something on Google. I think it's called the official Google+ Mortgage Network. There's about 1,000 members. If you happen to be on Google+, come find us, post your articles. It'll help you get higher traction in the search engines. Plus, it's a nice little social network for web-savvy mortgage professionals. And with that, close us out, Eric. Thanks again.
All right. Well, guys, we're going to go ahead